Now Sweeney, Dwayne Sweeney! Sweeney's over!
Can you please hand it over to your captain, Dwayne Sweeney?
Welcome to Real Tales with Sweens, proudly brought to you by Fish City Hamilton. Fish City has been servicing the Waikato's outdoor needs for nearly 30 years, and with the recent development of their online store, the team's outstanding service and expertise is now available across the country. A link to their website, as well as all the other links of supporters of the podcast, will be available on the realtaleswithsweens.com homepage. In this episode, I sit down and chat with Matt Wallbank. Matt may not be a household name, but I'm sure by the 31st of October 2021, he will be. Matt is taking on the monumental task of running 654 kilometres during the month of October, which is 1 kilometre for every suicide in New Zealand last year, a number that is far too high. Matt's motivation for doing so is to help raise funds and awareness for I Am Hope. I Am Hope connect the youth of New Zealand with mental health counsellors and practitioners to get them timely support without the added stress of how to pay the bill. During this podcast, we discuss a range of topics and get to know the man himself and the motivating factors to take on such a challenge. We also discuss some of his personal struggles, the support network he has around him, the importance of gratitude, the gift of giving, and so much more. Good George not only have a 15% discount available for all you listeners by using the discount code REALTALES before checking out on their online store, they are also supporting Matt and the cause. This is going to be done through a karma keg, one of their great initiatives where they donate a keg and all proceeds of sale will go directly to I Am Hope. Information of location and time for the event will be available through all of Good George's social media platforms and the website. The links for Good George's social media pages and the website will be available on realtaleswithsweens.com. The website will also have all the links to listen on your favourite platform, as well as some epic content from all the guests. Lastly, I want to say a special thank you to Matty for coming on and sharing some tales from his journey, and also sharing his motivations for taking on such an immense challenge, all for an outstanding cause. We wish you all the best, mate, and we'll be right there with you. Enjoy the podcast. All right, so I'm sitting here with Matt Wallbank, and I pronounced that correctly? Yeah, a bit easier than some of the names you hear on the footy field.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Matt is about to run 654 kilometres in the month of October. So yeah, first of all, thanks very much for coming on, Matt.
Thanks for having me, mate. Pleasure.
Yeah. So talk to me about this monumental feat that you've got lined up.
Yeah, so over the course of October, I'm going to attempt to run 654 kilometres, one for every suicide in New Zealand last year, with the aim of raising money for I Am Hope, trying to get as many kilometres sponsored as possible through the Give a Little, and try and raise some awareness, get some conversation flowing and normalising those conversations.
What a way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you haven't really gone out and just, I'll go for a little run. Like 654 kilometres, it's an amazing, I guess, I'm going to say achievement, because, you know, I fully believe that you're going to complete it, and we'll talk a little bit more about what you've been doing in the build-up to it also. But, man, like, how did this come about, I suppose, for you, this decision?
It's been an interesting development. I sort of just jumped on it. I thought about it and jumped on it in probably an hour and put it out there on social media that I was going to do it. And I think the big trigger for me was just that there was a video that Mike King shared, and I just saw so many people sharing it out there and doing nothing.
Yep.
And that was just such a trigger for me, is sharing it, yeah, that's great, like it's raising awareness, but what are we actually doing? And everyone has the possibility to do something. I know so many people in positions with platforms, with money, with skills which can be leveraged to make a difference, and it just feels like people use sharing things on social media as almost like they get some form of it's like a social status thing. When you share something, people think you're a good person, when in reality there's so much more that you could be doing to drive that cause. And for me, I had to do something bold, because if the way I sort of thought about it is if I saw someone doing something so stupid, then I'd be way more inclined to give them money to think about what I could do as well. Because if someone else is putting their body on the line, then why can't I do that too?
Yeah, that's a wicked way to refer to it, and to, you know, for me to sit here and listen to that as well, because like you do get that sense of, I guess when you give to a cause, or you do, like, even sharing, like, that will give people in that moment, like, that little bit of, I don't know the right word, but like, you are making a difference, you know what I mean? And it might be really small in terms of like a share, but what you're saying there is like people have certain skills. Yeah. They have, there's a lot of things where they could do more than just sharing. So it's pretty cool to hear that you're willing to take that next step. And that's something we deal with here at work, with the Water Boy. There's so many people out there that can give, and they do give, and they make a really big difference for a number of people. So for you to put the shoes on and to run 654 kilometres, that's one hell of a way to make a statement and to say, I want to make a difference. Yeah, and I think, like, the money's great. Like, the money will make a difference. But I think as much as the money, it's a platform to normalise the conversations of mental health. And people are getting better. I think it is becoming a more normal conversation to have. People are slightly more willing to have those conversations. But when you get on the radio and you talk about issues that you've had in the past, like personal issues that other people around me have had, like it's really actually hanging your own shit out to dry. And when you do that, people think, okay, if he's doing it, why can't I do it? It's like it comes back to that. If he's doing something to make a difference, then why aren't I? Because I'm not anything special. I'm not built any different to anyone else. Like, had done essentially zero running before this year, so it's not like I'm walking in with legs of steel. You're not Kipchoge. No, far from it. I'm probably way twice as much as Kipchoge, I'd imagine. Yeah. But it's just being willing to hang yourself out there and try and do something to make a difference. Yeah, no, that's cool, because we run a speaker series here at work, and just hearing you say that made me kind of think about that also. And it's around normalising conversations, and for us, we do a program around normalising homophobia in sport, and just that's where it kind of started, but it's really grown to just be really aware of the people in your surroundings when it comes to team sport, and it's all about being inclusive of everybody, and like religions and beliefs and anything, because everybody comes from different backgrounds and has different, I guess, upbringings, and it just making things normal is the way forward, and just to be like, oh, it's just the way that person is, doesn't make them any different. For sure. And like, we all struggle mentally, like everybody, and if you ask anyone, they all say the same thing. Yeah. So it's like doing something like this, being big and bold, saying, yes, like, I struggle, and I want more and more people to be able to say, yeah, it's okay to struggle. And that's the reality, and that's the only way out, is being able to have those conversations. Otherwise you do just, like, I'm not an expert, but I know from personal experience that the only way that I've gotten through those tough periods is being willing to open up to people that I trust. And as soon as that becomes common knowledge and people feel way more comfortable opening up about that, it's just going to happen. People are going to feel better. And it's about that's what this whole thing's about, is making those conversations normal and providing the resources, which is what I Am Hope does. It's providing counselling. Yeah, it's pretty cool, for all those people out there that don't know what I Am Hope is, like, provides counselling for youth. What age? Under 25. Under 25, which is, like, we kind of deal with in our space here at work. Like, there's a real lack of support in that area, and it's just a different, like, it's a very different dynamic, the way kids are brought up now to what they were when I was younger, and pre me as well, like, our parents sort of age and that kind of thing. Like, now all parents have to work 2 jobs, and some of them multiple jobs, to, like, society and living's getting more and more expensive, and that support's not you know, like I grew up, I was so fortunate. Mum was home all the time for us, so we had that. She was like the rock of the family, right?
Yeah.
So we had that support all the time, but not every household,
No.
very minimal households have that now.
Exactly.
Because of the way kind of society is, and that's one factor to the kids feeling isolated.
For sure, and for me, I've been lucky. I've got such great people around me that it didn't take much for me to get comfortable with having those conversations with people. But I'm hopes providing resources to people that, A, professional help, which goes far beyond having personal conversations with people close to you, but B, if you're not if you don't have people that you're comfortable speaking to, then it gives you an out. It gives you an outlet that you can have those conversations and not feel judged.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I do want to talk a little bit about your family and your upbringing, and that's going to lead into the Starters Foundation, which is, you know, an awesome initiative that you lead. But yeah, can we go back a little bit and learn a little bit more about Matt and sort of who you are and where you were brought up?
For sure. So I'm Hamilton boy. Have been here my whole life outside of a couple of shifts overseas. I did played a summer as an overseas professional playing cricket in England, and a little 7-month backpacking stint across Europe and the States. But yeah, outside of that, I'm Hamilton born and raised. Family's local. Mum and dad. Mum's parents are in Papamoa. Dad's parents here. Grew up in a family of teachers, so that was definitely a driving factor for the Starters Foundation, which we can talk about. But yeah, I mean, I've had a pretty lucky upbringing, really. I'm real fortunate, and I think over the last sort of year, maybe 2 years, I've become far more aware of how fortunate I am, and I think that's been a driver of the Starters Foundation and this stupid run. Yeah. So let's talk about the Starters Foundation. Can you just give us fill us in kind of on what that is and how it all came to be? Start early this year, maybe March. I sort of sat down and it was sort of stemmed from last year. I had a bit of a tough year, went through a couple of big changes, had a pretty tough relationship breakup, I finished playing cricket, had a pretty tough string of injuries, and that obviously, retiring from sport or dropping down a level, it comes with sport holds a lot of identity with you, and when you fall away from that, you do have that, okay, what the hell am I doing now, sort of thing. Yeah, well, there's a lot of social standing that comes with sport too. Absolutely, and it's who you are. Yeah, that's how people know who you are. Yeah, people identify Dwayne's the rugby player. Yeah, Matt plays cricket. Yeah. That's the first thing that people think of. And for me, I went through a pretty tough 6-9 months where I just worked on myself and was pretty selfish, really, but it had to be done to sort of sort my shit out. And then I sort of got to the start of this year, and I remember sitting down with a few of my mates and saying, look, I think this year I actually might try and do something for other people. I didn't know what it looked like, but it was something that I really, really wanted to do, and I had it pretty well set in my brain that I was going to do something. And that sort of fired the Starters Foundation, which I started in sort of March. The idea came up, and we've just been registered as a charity in the last month or so. Yeah. So that's just come through, and it's basically been set up to provide stationery, uniform to kids starting at low decile schools in the Waikato. Yeah. That's so cool, because you see, like you talk about there, like sport being like an identity. Yeah. That kind of thing. There's a number of different things you mentioned in that little segment that you've just mentioned there, but around all people want to do is like fit in and to feel like they're a part of something. And the fact that your organisation or your official charity now, the Starters Foundation, actually gives those kids that chance from day one when they start school, which is pretty powerful. It's very similar to what we do here at the Waterboy. These kids turn up to sport. We want them to actually feel like they're a part of it from the start. Definitely. They don't turn up in bare feet. They've got boots, and they've got good quality boots, and they've got a mouth guard and the rest of it. And it comes back to that thing of, hey, look, I'm not trying to save the world. Yeah. It's me saying, hey, look, I'm going to do this. And it's a 1%er, it's a 0.2%er. But if everyone who has that potential to hit that 0.2% and give that to someone else, if everyone's doing that, it adds up so fast. It just, it's crazy how much difference a group of people could make. Because, I mean, I drove my initial fundraising purely off my own back and raised $17,000.
Crazy.
And like, it's not like I've got outrageous networks where like I know heaps of rich people and like I can plug all these networks. It was just purely word of mouth, and when someone's doing something, people are willing to give. And I think that's what people just build these barriers where they put things in the too hard basket and they overthink things, and then it's paralysis by analysis. Like they don't do something because it's too hard, or they think for too long and they don't deliver on it because they just think of too many things that make it too hard.
There's a saying that Thomas says, I'm just trying to remember it now. What does it say? Don't let perfection get in the way of progress. And
sometimes it is just being willing to take that leap.
And then being willing to fail too. Like I think about my sports career, like you know, with rugby, I very much played the early part of my career focusing on perfection, and it halted my progress. Like I got to a point, and then I would never push the boat out, never like take that risk or that chance in the game because I was so worried about failing. So I played within this little box and these little barriers, and it's like, you know, Warren Gatland said it to me. He's like, mate, you're never going to get any better if you don't make any mistakes.
Exactly.
Like, you've got to start pushing yourself because you're capable, but you're too worried about getting it wrong. And then it was one conversation at the right time, which we're talking about here, conversations and people having outlets to talk. Like, it's amazing what one conversation can do at the right time.
Definitely.
So the fact that you're going to run 654 Ks to be able to, hopefully, well, I'm sure you're going to help a number of people have that one conversation at the right time to then change
for sure.
their life for the
And
better.
as much as that, I hope that it makes people who have the means to do something take it upon themselves to just do something. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to run 654k. Like that's a fool's game. Like you don't have to do that. But you'd be amazed at what you actually could do with an hour of your time, or I don't know, time, money, anything. Just talk to someone. But everyone can do something, and I hope that this and the conversations lead to people realizing that they can. Because if we all do a little bit, then it adds up to a lot.
No, that's so cool. Like it's real funny because when I first heard you were going to do this, I was like, oh my god, that's out the gate, like nuts.
People still now say it's going to be impossible, and in all honesty, I still think there's still a chance that I'm going to fail. And if I do fail, but no one will ever say that I'm an idiot, that I'm soft, that I'm, because I'm hanging myself out to dry. Like if I fail, like there's no one I can blame. It's running. That's not a team sport. If I don't get it done, I don't get it done because A, I wasn't ready, or B, I don't know. I think it's just one of those things. No one will ever call you out because you're doing something. You're hanging yourself out there.
Because I did 30 classes in 5 days of F45, and it was very similar conversations to that. A lot of people saying, "Oh, it's impossible. We can't do it." In all honesty, when I started it, I knew I could do it, but I thought, I'll be, and put in running terms, I'll be walking most of it, but I'll get it done. I'll do the Ks kind of thing.
And I won't lie, I've definitely said that there will be walking because, I mean, in reality, there probably will be some walking.
It was amazing though, once I started, what the human body can do, and it wasn't like, I'm no like superhuman athlete. I was never like the fittest or strongest rugby player either.
No.
But it was because I put my mind to something and I was doing it for something else. Like it wasn't about doing it for myself. It was about creating awareness for the water boy and to give kids in the Morrinsville community an opportunity. That was why I did it. And I said to a number of people afterwards, they're like, I can never do that. And I was talking to people that had done 15 classes, 18 classes with me that week. And I was like, what do you mean you can't do it? You did 18. And they're like, oh yeah, but I'm dead. And I was like, yeah, but you never said on Monday you're going to do all 30. I said like 3 months ago, I'm going to do all 30. So I told myself I was going to do it.
Well, I can remember having a conversation with you, it must be 3 months ago now, and people were talking about ways that people could buy kilometres off me. So that I wouldn't have to run the 654.
Oh, yeah.
And the first thing that you said was, you said to them, nah, that's not what he wants. Like, he's doing this because he wants to do that as well.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like, once you say something, you want to do it.
Like, and how we did it with the 30 and 5 is we were like, people could contribute and then come and do it with. So then, because a lot of people can't put into context, like, running's perfect because everybody has tried running, whether it be to the fridge or the TV or after your kids or whatever.
And everyone knows how hard running is.
Yeah, exactly.
No one likes running. No one's ever. Well, I've never heard. Even runners, they don't like running. They
just do it because they're good at it.
Exactly. And for me, like, I still hate running. It's still the hardest part of the day is putting shoes on. Like it's literally like. But that's the trigger. As soon as you put shoes on, you're like, you're gonna do it. But it's just being able to get out of bed and actually put your damn shoes on.
Yeah.
And that is the hardest thing.
Yeah. Cool. And it's wicked to see the kind of the traction that it's had and that people are starting to share it through their platforms, and that's their way of contributing to the bigger picture. Like, people have these big platforms, so it's really important for you that they do share that, because it's going to help create more awareness, which is going to hopefully bring in more donators, so we make more money, and then also, which is going to help more people, but then it's also going to make the conversations needed normal, because more and more people will be talking about it. You heard about that crazy guy in the Waikato that's going to go and run 654 Ks?
I know, and it's funny you say that, because the other day I was walking through just downstairs Centre Place, and I actually heard someone talking about it, talking about me running, and I was walking past.
What?
Yeah, and it took me a little while to click, and I realised that they were actually just talking about this run, which is really cool, because if they're talking about the run, then they're talking about why I'm running. Like, you can't talk about 654
kilometers
without thinking about why it's 600.
How would he do that?
Why and why it's 654.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and that's been something that I didn't expect. Is I've actually had a lot of people reach out to me talking about their own. Like, that's not just a number.
Nah.
That 654 isn't a number. It's there's people behind every single one. Yeah. And the amount.
And that's the thing that a lot of people disconnected from it.
Yeah.
That's something that they can never comprehend.
It's
a number to them, but it's
not a novel. It's not a statistic, but every statistic has a story behind it. Like Mr. Mr. Kugelheim, eh? Yeah. So Chris Kugelheim, he was my cricket coach at Boys High, and one of his favourite sayings was, "Statistics they're like a bikini. It's great what they show, but it's more important what they don't show."
Yeah.
So there's stories. Well, there's stories, but there's stories behind every single one of them, and the amount of people who've been willing to reach out and share that, hey, look, I know one of those people. Like, one of those kilometers is because of X. Like, and when I'm training, that actually, like, it sounds cliche, but you actually do think about it. Like, every kilometer I run is because of this. Yeah. And running's such a great metaphor for mental health, because no one likes running. You want to stop. As soon as you start, you want to stop. The hardest part's to start. Yeah. And as soon as you start, you just want to stop. Yeah. And when you're struggling, that just comes back to suicide. When you're struggling. Yeah. Not saying that I've ever reached this point. I definitely haven't. But you get to that point. How do you keep going? What have you got? Where can you find that extra gear to just keep going and fight your way through it and just make it to another day, another kilometer? Yeah, it's so crazy, because when you say that, the word suicide, like, it's like a word that we don't even mention in society. Like, it's taboo. Like, if somebody does commit suicide, and even we've had one recently of note here in Podmore. Yeah, with Liv, and on the news there was nothing mentioned about it, and I'm like, why can't we say that she committed suicide? Well, I read a report. I mean, how long ago was that? It must be more than a month. Yeah. And it's still being reported as a suspected suicide.
Oh, yeah.
We know what it is. Like,
Yeah.
why can't we talk about it?
Yeah.
Why can't we talk about that?
Yeah, that's the one thing that I find. It's like, I feel like we need to actually, yes, it happens, and we're talking about normalizing it, but we never come forward and say it's happened when it's happened. So it's like, how do you normalize something that's not spoken about?
Yeah.
So we're kind of almost in a backwards way.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way we deliver it through media is that it doesn't happen, but it actually does happen.
Yeah,
In
and
a way.
and again, it just comes back to being bold. Like,
Yeah.
if you say something, say it with your chest. Like, be willing to put yourself out there, be strong, and project the message that you want to project. And that's one thing that I've wanted to do this whole way through, is be bold in saying that we're not doing enough. I mean, it's pretty obvious we're not doing enough.
Yeah.
Mike King's made it pretty clear that we're definitely not doing enough.
Yeah.
And there's no reason that we shouldn't be doing enough.
Yeah, exactly. And you talk about there, like, when you're hitting that dark point, like, clearly no one knows what that dark point's like, because when people hit that point, that's it.
Yeah.
And that's, like, extremely sad. But it's like, we need to stop that point happening. So that what I'm Hope does, that's where the focus needs to be, because we need to stop getting to that point, because we clearly know when it gets to that point, it's too late.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And again, that just ties back to what we're trying to do, is be bold and make people think that they can just reach out and make it available, and people will be willing to help, because that's what it is. People need to help. Yeah,
because it really hit. I jumped on the Give a Little the other day. I jump on, I'm kind of tracking, seeing how it's going, the traction.
Sure.
After you're on the rock, I was like, oh yeah, this is like, sweet, let's see if the supporters have come up. And I went on and I saw a message from Sam Kane's parents, and like with Kane's Deer Velvet, they're supporting the cause as well, which we can talk about. But I didn't realise that they were willing to share like their connection to people that they've lost in their comment, and wishing you luck with their donation. And I was 100%. Just like, whoa, I didn't even I know Sammy really well. He's been on the podcast, and there's so many different people that it's not just a number, it's a person.
Exactly, and there's people that you probably deal with now who you don't know.
Yeah.
Everyone has a story close to them. And it's about being able to stop them. Yeah. And I mean, we're never going to, again, we're not saving the world. Like, I'm not trying to save the world, but I'm just trying to do
your little bit, your 1%.
My 0.1%, because in reality it is 0.1%.
Yeah.
And if I can do it, everyone else can do it. And that's probably the message that I want to project, is that everyone should be doing something.
Yeah, cool. Do you want to talk about what, how did it come about with Sammy's family being involved with the deer? Because you've been taking the deer velvet, eh?
Yeah, I have.
So have I.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about this a little bit. I just clicked them when I was thinking about that. But so how did that come about? Did you start taking the deer velvet, or did they come to you?
It's quite interesting, actually. So Leah, Sam's sister, reached out and said, hey, look, she saw what I was doing and said, hey, look, like, my family runs a deer farm and we make deer velvet capsules. Really great for the collagen, joints, everything. And she put me in contact with Kathy, Sam's mum, and we just went from there, and they've been providing it all the way through my training, and touch wood, it seems to be working quite well. So absolutely grateful for that. But as you say, they've got a story behind it as well.
No, it's cool. And are they doing a proportion of sales through October as well?
Yeah, so they're doing 10% of their sales through their online store coming into the Give a Little. So
awesome.
That's going directly through. So there's their 0.2%.
Yeah, nice. So if you're out there and you haven't tried the deer velvet, definitely do so.
100%.
Yeah, because I've been taking it. I recently ruptured my bicep tendon playing rugby, and then I was, tendons, joints, all that kind of stuff, and I was like, all right. So I got some deer velvet. It saved Sam Kane's neck when he broke it, so I was like, surely it's got to be the goods.
If it's good enough for him, it must be good enough for me.
Yeah. So I've been taking it, and I was taking it like prior as well, bits and pieces, but I've been more consistent since through my recovery, and I went and had a post-op consult with my surgeon, and he was blown away at how far along I was.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned, I've been taking like the deer velvet and stuff, and he's like, he goes, it wouldn't surprise me if something like that was making such a big difference. He goes, like, no doubt your body is going to bounce back different because you've been a contact athlete for a long period of time, but I'm sure that something like that, and surgeons don't normally say things like that.
No.
They they're all about medicine and science and the rest of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much the good stuff in there. And, I'm mad keen on hunting, so I know a lot about deer and antlers and that kind of thing, and it kind of blows me away how they pull the nutrients out of their antlers when they have injuries, and you can see it, you can visually see it when a stag has had an injury. The one antler will be slightly deformed, and it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, well, it got me through my biggest month so far, so I'm definitely backing it, I think.
Yeah, cool. So let's talk about that. So month of August.
Yep.
How many Ks?
340. We banked away 340, so easily my biggest month. Was quite interesting. I dealt with it a lot better than I expected, I think. Before that, my biggest month had probably been, I think, like late hundreds, maybe just touching 200. So pretty big increase. Ended up with a 110k week. Obviously, next month would be up around the 160, 165.
Week.
So so plenty to be done. Like it's just over half of what I'll be doing. But it was comfortable enough that it definitely made me feel like, shit, I might actually be able to do this.
Cool.
Yeah, and the splits were faster than I was anticipating.
I've seen some of your run maps going up. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I can't run 1K that fast.
It's amazing. I mean, for me, coming from no running, and I think the average K, I think it was around like 418, 420.
That's unbelievable.
Over the course of that month. So.
Yeah, I reckon I'd struggle to do 1K flat out at that speed.
You're not the first person who said that. I've got long legs, so got a nice little advantage. But
I'd love to run and support you, but I think I'll just literally run, and I'll see you at the end when you start the next.
I know, it seems like I've scared everyone off now. No one wants to come run with me, but I think we'll be able to pull a few people around, and I think I'd probably need to run a little bit slower at the start of next month to try and help out, but I don't know. I'm confident-ish, I think is probably the best way to frame it.
It's amazing, when I saw that came up, you put up that post on your story, I think it was, or did you do a post? I can't remember.
I think it was
like a summary of your month of August, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was blown away. I was like, he's easily going to do it.
Yeah.
Like, when I saw that in preparation, I was just like, oh, man, pretty confident there.
I think, but again, like the running's great, but it's just that without even knowing it, I've made it a lot easier on myself I've had this, I said to you before the podcast, I've had this thing for probably the last 3 or 4 years without even knowing it, training my brain to do something shit every day. And I think running is like the ultimate shit. No one likes it. I hate it. I still hate it. It never gets any easier, as I said before. But
it doesn't, because you just end up pushing yourself that little bit. It's like a beep test or a yo-yo test.
Well, you're always going to die.
Yeah. It's like everyone. I remember saying it to a few when I was young, coming into professional rugby, and the guys were real fit and they'd smash it every time. I was like, oh man, you must love the beep. When we would go and do a beep test or a yo-yo, and they're like, I was like, oh man, you must love this. And they're like, nah, it's horrible. I hate it. Yeah. And I was like, well, how can you hate it? And they're like, well, you still die at the end of it. You go until you can't go anymore.
Exactly.
And
it's
then I was
as hard as you want to make it.
Yeah.
And doing something shit every day, it normalizes it. So when you all of a sudden it's not that shit anymore.
Yeah.
Like it starts out being real shit, and then if you do it, it's not as shit.
Yeah.
Things become easier if you do something tough every day. And it's just like a mentality thing where it definitely strengthens your brain a little bit.
Yeah. Do you think it's helped with like that part there? Do you reckon that's helped with through life? And I'm sure the answer to this is going to be yes, but like through life to put things in perspective, like with work and relationships, friendships, like all the kind of stuff that pops up at different times. In saying that,
it's probably important to recognise that my shit is different it's a lot better than a lot of people's shit. Like my shit is going for a run. I mean, if you put that in perspective, that's pretty good. If that's the worst part of your day, you're going pretty good. You know? Like, if the worst thing that you have to deal with on a day is going for a run that you choose to go on, you're dictating everything in your life. And your life's pretty good. And I think that that's been one thing that I've realised over the last year and a half is just not taking little things for granted. Like I just appreciate so many small little things now, and that's really helped with my mental health. Like, if you just let things pass by and you're constantly thinking about the next thing, and you're not staying present, then you're going to struggle to enjoy anything. Like, I enjoy little things. Like, I enjoy getting up in the morning and having breakfast and having a coffee with my partner. Like, that's something that you could just quite easily just let slide on by. But
I love coffee.
We all love coffee, and that is definitely fueling the running. But it's just little things like that. Like, if you can just take pleasure out of such small things, and all those little things add up to just one like great day. It just puts everything into perspective.
It does. Like, that's such a good way to look at life. Because it's so easy to, as humans, like, we kind of chase. Like, we want, bigger, better, faster cars, bigger houses, bigger boats, whatever. Like, whatever you've got's not enough, and you kind of you're always searching for a bit more. And I think about that, like, from a professional sports point of view, you're driven by that, so it's quite hard to actually reflect and enjoy along the way. And I've kind of found for a while I got into a bad space with that, and I was missing a lot of, like, the really cool, important things that were happening in my career for me personally, because I was just worried about what I could do next, what team I could make next, how can I play more games, how can I score more points, like, And
it's don't get me wrong, it's not about being satisfied with where you're at, but it's being able to sit back, take a high level outlook of where you've come from, where you are now, because it's quite possible that where you are now is where you wanted to be yesterday. And if you're there now and you wanted to be there yesterday, then why aren't you happy? If you're just constantly chasing tomorrow, then at what point are you satisfied?
It's funny, because you look at, you see it all the time, like, people think, oh man, it must be good, like these super wealthy people and have everything, looks like everything's sorted and soft, and they're not happy.
No.
But it's probably because of that, they're not actually reflecting the journey. And it's like, they came from this and then now they're this, but they've got there from being super driven and trying to just be better and better and better, that they've forgotten the whole journey to get to that point.
I know, and it's funny, like, I actually had this conversation with someone the other day about people that can retire at 50. They don't retire at 50 because they don't want to. Like, they're just constantly thinking, what's next? What's next? That's a work thing. It's not it's not an enjoyment thing. But people get gratitude out of different things as well. They get happiness and fulfillment out of different things. But it is important to be able to appreciate little things, and I think that's probably been the biggest change in my life that's really benefited my mental health.
Do you get a lot of gratitude out of giving? That's what.
There's a different level to gratitude from giving. I take gratitude out of things that I get every day, and I give myself every day. But there's definitely a different level when you're giving someone else something to be grateful for. And it's not necessarily a tangible thing that you're giving them, but if you make someone smile, if you make someone laugh, there's a different level to it. And that is probably been a key driver in what I have been doing the last year. Is I felt like I wanted to achieve that different level of gratitude and different level of fulfillment.
I think of my career when I like, the reason I ask that question is because I get so much more joy sharing my experience with younger players and helping them dealing with different situations. And I think, like, there's enough, like you just said, like, there's nothing like being able to help somebody. And I think as humans, like, most of us are wired that way. Like, I know pretty much all my friends, like close friends, that whether they know it or not, and I think working here at the Waterboy for me has helped me see what my kind of close friend group are actually like as people, because I deal with those people on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Like, we're super lucky, our sponsors, supporters,
Absolutely.
volunteers, everybody that's involved with our organisation. I'm so grateful to be able to be, I guess, in their presence because of the type of people they are, and it's infectious and contagious. And then I look at my friends and I'm like, oh, they're exactly the same. They just apply it in a different way. And they might not even be aware of it themselves.
I mean, you guys do a great job over here. I mean, you rein in the right people and once you do something well, which is the stage that I'm at now with the Starters Foundation, is I have to be able to now show that what people have donated their money towards is going to a really good place and is going to make a difference. And if I can do that, then all of a sudden things open up. People, you get grant funding, you get X, you get scholarships, you get all of these things that can ultimately help more people. And it's being able to prove that I can help these people by doing what I'm doing. Yeah, that's something that we focus on here, is being able to show people, show people's values and organisations' values, because a lot don't. Like, a lot gives so much. There's so many people out there that give so much, but they don't show that they give it, and we feel it's really important to show it, because it does not only it strengthens their brand, but it also strengthens ours, which in turn helps more Kiwis. You know, like so it's like it's people are like, oh no, I don't want to show, I just want to give it, and it's like, oh yeah, that's all well and good, but if you show it, it's going to align more of your so-called customers to you. It's also going to help us. It's going to spread our network out into your network, and then which in turn is going to help more kids to be able to participate in sport or personal development. Exactly, and I think that's the goal for every charity, for every organisation, is how do we reach more people? How do we help more people?
Yeah, we run 654k in a month.
I wouldn't advise that. Yeah. I think that was just a me thing. Yeah. But you don't have, and it comes back to that thing. You don't have to do that. No. But I'd actually say every single person who's listening to this podcast has the ability to do something. Yeah. Doesn't have to be money. Doesn't have to be anything. It can just be time. Yeah. But they can do something.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's talk about your sporting background. Yep. Because you've said a number of times in this conversation that you hate running, which blew me away when you're saying you're going to do 654 Ks, but you hate running. Yeah. But and you mentioned it earlier about the cricket. Like, can we talk? Has it always been cricket, like growing up, or? Yeah, I mean, I was one of those kids who picked up anything when I was really young. Played rugby, played touch, played a lot of soccer when I was little, played cricket, picked up golf at school and got okay at that, played on the school golf team, running, I guess, like cross country when I was little. But and then kind of got to, you get to high school and then you kind of have to, especially with cricket, you have to make a decision. Yeah. And it was... It's a lot of time, eh? Yeah, for sure. And I think much to Mum's dismay, her weekends disappeared and then started and just kept on with the cricket. And played all through school, played like Northern District's age group stuff all the way through school. Played for the Northern Knights second team a few times. Went over and signed a deal to play in England for a summer over there, which was a great experience. But then came back and had a stress fracture in my back. Fast bowler's injury. You fast bowler? Yeah. And then came back, and I think I must have sat for a year with a stress fracture in my back, and then came back. You needed some deer velvet back then.
Oh yeah. I needed mountains of it. And then came back and tore my hamstring a couple of times, and that kind of just spat me out.
Well, it's all kind of linked to your back, eh? Your hamstrings
it's just a chain, isn't it? Everything's a chain. Your ass, your hamstrings, your lower back, everything's a chain. So
how do you deal with that running when you started off getting into the running and actually doing?
I was
big runs.
Really, really, really obsessive with stretching. Stretching, mobility, foam rolling, everything. Yeah. But I've kind of loosened up on it a little bit. But that was I was always a hard worker, like with sport. Never naturally gifted, wasn't. But I'd work a lot. Like when I was coming back from that injury, I rehabbed harder than anyone I know, really. Like I was stretching an hour a day, which is, in itself is pretty good work.
It's a big effort.
Well, it's
I'm lucky if I stretch a minute.
I know, and it's kind of got like that for me now, but it was just another thing that I had control over, which made me feel, even if it wasn't doing that much, it made me feel like I had control over the situation.
That's an important thing too, I reckon. Like the placebo effect is massive,
hugely.
And I'm a real big believer in that. Yeah, to the extent where we go into all sorts of bloody theories in my head. But I'm a massive believer in that, and I know that it works because I've made it work for myself in different scenarios. Like I've turned up to big games like well undercooked or not in a good place, and I've been able to flick the switch because I've told myself I can do it. And in different ways I've done it through talking to myself about past experience. You've been here before, you've done this, yes you might feel like this, but all you got to do is that and this, and then everything's going to be magic. And then it's like amazing how you can kind of talk yourself into, and that comes to feeling something.
Again, wraps around to that thing of do something shit every day. Because if you do, if you on your worst days you still get your ass out and do something you don't like doing, those are the days that make the most difference. Like those are the 1%ers. Like the other days might be your 0.2%ers, but the days that are hard and the days that you just don't feel like doing it, if you do something you don't want to do, you'll feel amazing at the end.
This is like reminding me of something I talked to I'm helping out with Thames Valley, and I talked to a few of those boys on the weekend leading into the game, and they were just like asking questions, how do you used to get up for big games and this and that, and I said, because I like, surely some days you felt like shit, and we're just talking about it there, and I could, placebo effect, talk myself into it. But something I learned again from Warren Gatland was he used to always talk about A game, B game, and it's like you are not going to be able to perform your A game week in, week out. It's impossible. Like it's physically impossible because there's going to be different factors, sickness, stuff going on in your life. Might have a little niggle and the rest of it. But he said you should never ever drop below your B game. So if you can deliver your B game, work out what that is, then, and you can, it's going to be shit and it's going to be hard, but if you can, deliver, like for me it was, I had to be strong communicator. That was like one of my like non-negotiable, strong communicator, accurate catch pass, defensively I had to stay connected, and then control the ball into contact. And that was all I had to worry about. And he said, I remember him saying it, he was like, if you can nail all those things, you watch your B games turn into A games, like when you feel like you can't, because you're doing, you get yourself into that state, and you just start like, and then all of a sudden a line break comes and then you score a try, and then all this sort of stuff happens, and you talk about it, what you're saying there, like you're going to have shit days, but when you can get your ass out of bed and put your shoes on, it's amazing what that day can turn into. When you do that something hard.
And again, that ties into that mental health thing. Like if you're having a shit day, but you can still talk about it, and you can get out and you can do what you need to do, and be open and honest and tell people how you're feeling, chances are you're going to feel better. And it's not necessarily like a long-term solution, but your C days turn into B days. And if you're good on your hardest and shittest days, then you're going to be pretty good.
That's cool. Have you been real surprised by the reach that this has started and the traction that started to come from it? Like, it's pretty cool. Funny. A couple of All Blacks shirts, so like Anton Leonard-Brown.
Anton's been really good with me with the Starters Foundation as well.
He's a great man.
Legend, absolute legend, and we've got a couple of mutual friends, so plays into that as well. David Neeka's helped me out quite a bit as well.
Did you go to school with David? Or
David was my year at school.
I thought you just might have been similar.
I didn't have too much to do with him at school, but he's just one of those guys who you just feel comfortable reaching out to. He's happy to have a yarn, and even when I did the last run, which we haven't really cut. We haven't really
talked about that.
Well, when I did the last run, Dave actually he messaged me before the last run of that run, and he actually turned up and just busted it out with me, and we just yarned the whole way through. It was really cool. It was nice to have him on board.
Yeah. So that last run was that was for the Starters
It was,
Foundation.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was the key part of the fundraising drive.
Yep.
There.
Yeah. So what talk us through that? You
So-
did is it David Goggins
Yeah,
challenge that
that's
one?
it's the David Goggins 4x4x48. So
Yep.
you run 4 miles, which translates to 6.5k essentially. So it's 6.5k every 4 hours for 48 hours. So I think I started at 4 p.m. on a Friday, and by 12 o'clock on Sunday, I was pretty much done. So I think it worked out to be 78 kilometers over 48 hours. So it was probably a good little test. I didn't know I was going to be doing this at that time.
Yeah.
But, it probably gave me a little bit more confidence in committing to this.
Yeah. Did you train much leading into that one,
Yeah.
or was that the kind of the start of your running journey?
I did. So I must have done that in June, and I think I started running in maybe mid-Feb.
Yep.
And I think since then, since mid-Feb, I've run around 1,400 kilometers. Yeah.
Well,
So plenty.
You're going to go and do half of that in the
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You start
There you
thinking
go.
about, shit,
Yeah.
I've done a lot of running this year, and I'm
Yeah.
going to try and do half of that
Yeah.
in 4 weeks, basically. So
Yeah.
yeah. But no, that was a cool little tester, and I was a bit more comfortable than I thought it was going to be. So
Yeah. Well, I've seen it. It's on your Instagram,
Yep.
which I'll tag in to all of this as well, so as people can see, and you can go through it and see all the runs
Yeah.
and the people that were in there. It's
Yep.
in your highlights, eh?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I jumped in and had a look at that, and you're running super comfortable for.
Yeah, I think
you know,
it was really helpful having people in it. This probably plays into next month as well.
Yeah.
It was really helpful having people with me, because the runs that I ran by myself were too fast, and they were early, and
Yeah.
it would have. I just don't know if I would have got there. But I had some friends who jumped in and ran, and it wasn't slow. Like, it was still 5-minute Ks, between 5 and 5:30s. Like, but it was just nice having company and a pacer.
Yeah.
So that I didn't go out and act a fool and blow a gasket.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my friends are unbelievable human beings, and I had friends running at 4 a.m. on a Saturday, like.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that tells you everything you need to know, really.
Yeah. And I think that ties into the doing something hard every day too.
Yep.
Like for those people that
Yep.
was their hard, you know,
It
it's
was.
like, oh, what's going to be, they probably looked at it and said, what's going to be the most difficult run for you?
Yep.
And then I
100%.
want to be there for you, so
Yeah.
I'll come and do that one.
Yeah, and I had some of my best mates who I've been friends with since I was 9-10 years old running with me down Tarapa Strait at 4 o'clock. I had a couple of my friends, we had a midnight run it must have been a Saturday night, and I had 4 people on Lime scooters.
Yeah.
Just surrounding me,
Yeah.
running down Tarapa Strait. So it would have looked like an absolute scene, but
Yeah.
it was just like that. Just speaks volumes to the people I've got around me, and probably is a huge contributing factor into where I'm at now.
Yeah, cool. With what you're going to do, have you kind of mapped out areas around Hamilton that you want to run? Is there some places you haven't run where you're like, oh, what am I going having a run
I just don't know. Like, I've been thinking about it, and I almost find it easier when I know the run.
Yeah.
And it's
because you tick off those markers.
and it takes away that decision fatigue of, like, it's quite tiring when you're running if you're having to constantly think about where you're going.
Yeah.
It sounds stupid, like you're running
It makes
physically,
sense,
it's hard,
though.
but if you're always thinking about where the hell you're going and trying to remember how to
turning
get back,
corners
and looking over your shoulder and trying to work out where you're going, then I think it does make it harder, and mentally you don't know how
What's
much
that
further you've
unknown,
got.
that your mind's like,
Yeah.
even though you know the distance, you're
Yeah.
like, oh, how far am I in? And then you're constantly checking on your app rather than knowing, oh, yeah, I'm halfway.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a quarter of the way through, like, just from habit on being there.
No, absolutely. But no, I haven't really had a good think about it. I mean, I sort of float around Hamilton East and float around St Andrews as well. So parents live down on the river, so maybe there's a few too many hills floating around the river trail. It'll sneak up on you. But I think I'll just float around Hamilton and just try and get as much done as I can around here. Maybe try sneak away a couple of weekends and change it up a little bit and get to the beach and do that. But
a few ocean swims.
I think if I just ran the same block every time, I think my neighbours would start questioning what the hell's going on.
Yeah, well, you burn a track into the footpath.
I know. But we'll just play it by ear. I think it's
Yeah,
probably
you're pretty
best.
like, so in terms of that, like people being able to connect with you and come
Yeah.
along, you open to.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would love nothing more than
Yeah.
for groups of people, like just anyone. And if they're worried about running a pace, then I'm happy as to just run laps of somewhere.
Yeah.
Like if people want to come and run, but they
Yeah.
like and show some support or
Yeah.
like.
But they're worried about not being able to keep up.
Just
yeah.
and you don't have to run the whole way. Like
Yeah.
we could go and run laps of the lake.
Yeah, or they can
laps
join
of-
in for the last couple of K.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
sort of thing,
and it's just like I don't know. I think that as well speaks volumes. As if people are willing to again do something shit that they don't want to do. Like
And
that's a
support,
nice
yeah.
challenge to come out and run.
Yeah.
And just come out and show support and show that you're going to do your hard thing with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty cool. I don't think you're going to have a shortage.
Nah,
of people,
for sure.
which will be nice, you know, and it's going to create more conversations
Yeah.
and awareness, and
Yeah.
they're going to go and talk to their friends about what they did that
Yeah.
day, and then they'll be like, "What? You ran that far?" And
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, well, this guy I ran
Yeah.
with is running 654K."
But no, 100%.
Yeah.
If people want to come and run, and if they know people who want to come and run, then just get
Yeah.
at me.
Yeah. Have you had many of the? So you've had a lot of people start to share. I guess your journey and story and what you're going to do. Have
Yeah.
any of those guys put their hands up to come
Dave,
along?
I think Dave will come and run.
Oh, yeah.
He'll probably run rings around me, but we'll be able to do that. I think at some point Dave,
Yeah.
before he goes overseas, is going to come get one in.
Yep.
I
He's
think-
going pro soon, right?
Yeah, he's as far as I'm aware, he's going to. I think he's going to the UK in a few
Yep.
weeks. So
Cool.
that'll be cool. Cool
Yeah.
journey to follow. But
Yeah, I want to get
Yeah.
him on here eh, before he leaves.
yeah, no, that'd be a great one.
Yeah.
It'd be a great one. Nice ass fella.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we'll just wait and see. Really. So
Yeah.
hopefully people turn up, and hopefully we can get some faces along to come run some Ks.
Yeah, yeah. Has there been any like sort of notable support? I know Good George are
Yep.
jumping in and being involved. They're
Yep.
gonna put a tracker on you, is that right?
Yeah, they're gonna run a tracker through their social media and
Oh,
through
wicked.
their website, so
Yep.
that people can stay posted on how far. I'm sure I'll be running updates on my own, but
Yep.
it'll be cool to have a centralized place where people can A, donate money, and B,
Yeah.
track where I'm at.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think on the 31st of October they're going to run they call it a karma keg,
Yep.
and so they're going to donate a keg at the brewery down in Frankton.
Yep.
And basically donate the keg, and however much people want to pay, they can pay for a pint, and it goes straight into
Into the
little-
cause, yeah.
Yeah, which is really cool and just greatly appreciate it.
Sweet, $100 pints at Good George.
Hey, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
No, that's good. They're because I've worked with them
Yeah.
a lot with both here.
Yeah,
at
I was going to
Waterboy
say they
and-
do a bit here. Right?
Yeah, and then also with the podcast, they've
Yeah.
been supporting me right from. I think I was about 4 or 5 episodes
Yeah.
in when they jumped on board, and they're great people, and they've really connected into the community, which
Yeah.
is made it easy for me.
Yeah.
I went and met Daryl, one of the directors, and they've actually been on the podcast. So if you haven't, those people listening, hadn't really heard their story, like jump on, have a listen. They're super interesting guys, and you can see, or you can hear, from that conversation why that organisation is
Yeah.
successful, the value that they put on the people, and,
Yeah.
and that's sort of one thing that I've noticed through this is that when you talk to people that have, are successful or have done something or are gonna do something,
Yeah.
it's always comes back to the people. They do things for people around them and support and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, everyone's got a story, don't they?
Mm.
And everyone's got people who do cool things always have a why.
Mm.
There's always a why behind everything that everyone does, whether they know it or not.
Mm.
And it's cool to be able to share that why with people and to get the why out of other people.
Yeah,
And if you can bring the why out, then people start doing cool things.
yeah,
And cool things for other people.
Yeah.
Which is what we're really trying to do here.
yeah. I'm super excited to see how the whole month plays out, actually.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best thing about it. Apart from the fact that you're going to run 654 Ks, which is fucking awesome. But it's the fact that it goes for a month, so it's going to give it lots of time for people to, to start those conversations.
Yeah.
It's not like you go and do one thing one day,
No.
which is awesome.
Yeah.
It's still, you could go and run for 24 hours and that's like out the gate, and that would be awesome.
Might even be harder. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know, but it's given, that's a day of traction where if you've got a month long, sort of thing going on, that it just gives it more time, and people might get involved on day 31.
Yeah.
And then, but that's, you know, someone that wasn't involved in the conversation that we're talking about prior to that, then that's huge that you can pull those extra people in and along.
Yeah, and people have been just so willing to jump in and help, and I think that's only going to grow over the month. As I sort of chip through those Ks, I think people will probably be a bit more inclined to start having a look, which will be really cool.
Yeah. No,
Real
that's
cool.
cool. Is there just trying to think what else we haven't covered in here now. With the Starters Foundation, how do people get involved in that?
Yeah, well,
because I'm sure there's a number of people listening.
Yeah. Well, we've got a website. If you just Google the Starters Foundation, it'll come up. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. So basically anything Starters Foundation related that you'd like to get in behind and have a crack at, whether you want to come along and donate some stuff, or because we're still taking on stationery, we're looking at taking that on, and also just having people give some input, share some stories, just anything really. I mean, I'm so open to just any conversation. If people want to reach out and have a chat on basically anything, then that'd be great. Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's cool. Yeah, because that's it. I love that. Yeah, because this is a big part of why I love working here at the Waterboys, because I grew up in Morrinsville, like a small community, and I know that I got to where I got to because of opportunity given. Yeah, and I was super lucky that I was given those opportunities and those chances, and then I came across the Hamilton Boys High, again another opportunity to gain multiple opportunities across whatever I wanted to do really. That school was amazing. I think it's a third of all Hamilton boys go through that school. That's how big the footprint is now. So,
yeah, for sure.
So those opportunities are key.
Yeah, and it is being able to give them that opportunity, and I learned. I mean, my dad was he was the assistant principal at Crawshaw School for I think he was there for 8, maybe 10 years, and I mean, anyone who knows Crawshaw School, it's pretty rough. I mean, that area of Hamilton's pretty rough, and you learn pretty quickly that what they're going through is a lot different to what you're going through. And I was the same age as the kids that Dad was teaching
at that time. Yeah.
So you work out. I mean, he just would come home, and you sort of got a pretty fair grip on that their situation is quite different. Yeah.
Did they have a big impact on your dad and your family? At that time?
Dad's down the line. He just doesn't put up with too much shit. He's probably was pretty good for that school, I'd imagine. But they've always Mum and Dad have always driven into us how lucky we are. I mean, we're not rich or anything, but I've never gone without. Always had everything I've ever wanted, and perhaps just didn't recognise that as much as I should have. And it's taken maybe going through a little bit of adversity in my life, which it's funnily enough, like that last year was probably, when I think about it, the first dosage of reality that I'd had in my whole life. Like, everything had just been so smooth. I'd lived the easiest, most comfortable life you could think of, and hadn't even, I don't know, I probably hadn't really gone through any adversity. And it just took something as small as a relationship breakup, stopping playing cricket, which in the scheme of life is actually really small. It's tough at the time, but when you look back on it, it's not really that significant.
But it's amazing the impact it can have.
Well, exactly.
At the time.
And it took a little bit of, it was probably that sort of flipped the switch in my head on going back to appreciating those little things. And there's a part, Mr. Kugelline again. Yeah. It's funny how some things just stick in your brain, but Mr. Kugelline, I can remember my first day of Year 9, Mr. Kugelline gave us a poem. It was called The Man in the Looking Glass.
Yeah, we talked about this on BJ's podcast.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Oh, okay, that's really interesting. That stuck with him as well. Yeah. But that really, really stuck with me, and it really relates to what I'm doing. And going back, if to summarise it in a short little sentence, it's basically you can go your whole life fooling everyone else, but when you get home and you look in the mirror, you know. Yeah. Like, you know if you're bullshitting yourself. But other people might not be able to tell, but you'll definitely know if you're bullshitting yourself. Yeah. And it comes back to that, is are you doing all you can to be a good person? Which is as simple as that. Like, can you wake up and feel like you're doing what you can to be a good person?
Yeah.
And if more people are good people, we're going to be doing a lot better.
You know, more people being good people, then that support network is just going to grow and grow for those people that are struggling at certain times.
Absolutely,
right?
and it's just being willing to take on those moments where you can just be kind.
Yeah.
and that my perspective on that's changed so much. Like now, go looking for ways to be kind rather than wait for an opportunity where it might, you know, like I think in the past I've been guilty of being a good person for perceptive reasons, like people seeing me as being a good person, whereas now I get all of that intrinsically, where it's coming from inside, rather than like I'm not trying to show other people that I'm a good person, because that's just a natural side effect of if you actually are a good person. Like good people don't tell other people they're good people. Yeah,
well that's like I talked about a lot with the sponsors. So there's people that give, and some of them are the most successful businesses we deal with. They don't even want to show that they give, but because it's just you know, intrinsically they just want to be good people and provide opportunity.
Well, cool people don't walk around telling other people they're cool. Like, if you have to tell someone you're cool, you're probably actually not that cool. So it's exactly the same. Like if you have to tell people that you're a good person and showboat it and try and be, I don't know, like openly like drilling it in and like only doing good things when people are watching, because that's 2% of your day is when people are watching. Yeah. So what are you doing that? Yeah. It's like training for sport. What are you doing when people aren't looking?
Yeah, and that gets spoken about all the time, right? Like,
exactly.
You know,
it's
champions
a cliche,
are made when no one's watching.
Yeah, it's a cliche, but it's so true.
Yeah.
Like people make the most progress when other people aren't looking.
Yeah, like I think about that from like our Waikato team from 2017 to 18. Personnel didn't change.
Yeah.
Really, like a couple of guys, but bugger all. But 2017 we got relegated and had our Waikato's longest ever losing streak in history. Yeah. Then we win the Ranfurly Shield, turn it around, win the Ranfurly Shield, and then win the championship in 2018. Yeah. And all it came down to was we had a really good leader. Yeah. So we had Johnny Gibbs as our head coach. Yeah. And it became about being a good person and about not just like when people are watching. Yeah. Like he mentioned it. He's like, I should go be able to go and ask the guy on the gate here that when you come in, what's my team like? What are they like? Because, you know, they should be respectful, they should be polite, they should, you know, like all these traits that we wanted to see, they should walk in proud, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then it was amazing that when we actually started to focus on that, how the performances changed, because the skills didn't change. No. We didn't train any harder. If anything, we probably trained less that year, but it became more about like just being a good person and being contributing to something bigger than yourself. Yeah, there's a guy who he recently actually just ran from Los Angeles to New York, and his name's Hella Sidibe. So I think his Instagram handle might be Hella Good, and his key line for everything in life, not just running, like everything, is no matter the circumstances. So no matter what circumstances you're under, you get your work in, so you do something hard. Like something hard has to be done every day. No matter the circumstance. Pissing down with rain, you go out and you run. You run further. Yeah. And we talked about this the other day. Yeah. We talked about this earlier. Everyone who was in Hamilton knows last Thursday was absolutely pissing down. I woke up at 5 o'clock and it was pissing down. My whole lawn was flooded. I know, and I was lying in bed at like 5. I woke up an hour early, 5 o'clock, and it was pissing down. I thought, okay, maybe by 6 o'clock it'll be alright. I stayed in bed till 6 o'clock, and I thought, oh shit, it's still pissing down. and again, got my shoes on. So that was the hard part. Got my shoes on. It would have been easy to go in and run on the treadmill or do that. Like probably would have had a similar effect physically. But mentally.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I'd done that, then what happens when it rains next month? Yeah. I'm not going to run on the treadmill. So it was about, and I ended up doing more. I was supposed to do a 10K and I ended up doing a 12K because I wanted to do those extra Ks to make it shitter, to make it harder, because it builds that resilience. Yeah. And I think that links back to being a good person, like no matter the circumstances, you should be a good person. It should be your first instinct.
Yeah.
And if you can build it to be your first instinct, then the world's going to be a better place.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the key word there, like resilience. Like resilience is skill learned. Like you're not born resilient. Like you learn that through doing. You learn that through that experience. You just spoke about them. It's pissing down with rain. Put your shoes on, you get out there and you do it, and then you tag on to extra Ks.
Yeah.
Where it'd be easy to run half the distance too, or not go at all, or go to the treadmill. But to build resilience, you've got to actually go out, experience it, and then push through.
For sure.
Yeah.
And when you finish it, wow, it'll feel good.
Oh yeah. How did it feel actually?
Yeah,
after
great.
that?
I probably had 6 litres of water in my clothes.
Yeah.
I took my shoes off and I put them in my boot. And geez, man, I opened the boot for the first time the other day.
Yeah.
Woo! Wow, it was fruity in there.
Yeah.
But it felt unreal. Like you get so much more satisfaction out of doing something that's really, really hard than if you half-ass something and take the easy out. And it's any circumstances, you get it done.
Yeah. Man, I like that.
Yeah.
What shoes are you wearing? Do you have... we might be able to get a sponsor out of this.
Hey, if anyone's got some shoes now. I'm running some New Balances at the moment. I've got some Asics as well. And some Brooks as well. So I'm kind of just rotating them.
Yeah.
I imagine I'll probably burn through all 3 next month. So.
Yeah.
No, it'll be cool though. I'm actually really looking forward to just getting moving now.
Yeah. Have you got like those shoes, so like you're going to take on a shitload of Ks.
Yeah.
Have you has that been a conscious thought to the shoe purchase and then to looking after them to have them ready? So you're not blind, they're not hanging on.
Yeah.
Now.
See, that probably would have been the smart thing to do, but I've sort of just been just running in what feels good on those days. Just kind of just picking them up and whatever's closest to me, putting them in.
Yeah.
But
Do they feel like they're going to hold out, you reckon? Or they feel them hanging on?
One of them's hanging on.
Oh, yeah.
But I think they'll be okay.
They'll be alright.
I hope so. I mean, if they start falling bits, you just get a new pair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the end of the world, is it?
Nah.
But yeah, I'm sure they'll get some serious wear through the
Yeah, yeah. What have in terms of like blisters and all that kind of stuff? Have you been getting much sort of chafing blisters?
There's been some good chafe. Yeah,
especially
some good
pissing
chafe.
down rain.
Yeah, there's been some good chafe. We covered that on the rock actually. We've got the nipple chafe going a little bit, a couple of days to get a little bit tender.
Yeah.
Blokes will know that you get it around the nuts a little bit.
Yeah.
You certainly carry something around there, and then, God, honestly, the most risky thing is if you need a shit.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, it's like the most stressful thing in the world. Like if you literally get because I run a lot out and backs.
Oh yeah.
And so if I get halfway down and I need a shit, what do?
Yeah.
Like, what's your option?
Yeah.
Exactly. And I've been lucky.
Have you mapped out runs with toilets?
Nah. But I run from work and run a lot around the lake.
Oh yeah.
And so obviously there's a toilet there, but. Geez, there's been some absolutely frightening.
Yeah.
Oh, jeepers. Honestly, I really just don't want to have to run.
Yeah.
With a shit in my pants.
Nah.
It'd be ideal if we could get through October without that happening. I reckon that is fear number 1.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's nothing for those that know. Like, there's no worse feeling, And it's probably the worst thing to do when you need to go.
Yeah, it's running. You just bouncing it. Yeah. Well,
just,
I've even had that experience travelling.
Yeah.
I've tried to run at home and just didn't quite get there. So, those poor streets of Croatia. They saw some bad things.
I'm sure we've been, all of us have experienced moments like that in our life. Hopefully it doesn't happen to you in October. But when you're running that much, it's probably going to happen at some point, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm figuring. Hopefully there's some kind people around Hamilton who
open their
doors and just let me have a little crack in there.
Yeah. So if people see Maddie coming towards their door and running gear, open the door. Cool. So I don't know if is there anything else we haven't touched on?
I feel like we've touched most things now.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty excited to see how it all gets going. I'm actually really keen to get you on.
Yeah.
If we could try and do it maybe
Definitely.
midway through,
Yeah.
or say at some point, and just
Absolutely.
give it a little bit of a check-in. It might,
Yeah.
it's obviously not going to be a big
No,
long-form
no.
podcast, but we can, we can dive into, how it's all sort of going,
Yeah,
and give an
little
update.
15-minute.
Yeah,
Be
and then
quite nice.
and then wrap one up at the end too.
Absolutely,
Kind of,
yeah.
it'd be awesome to be able to share,
Yeah.
the journey and what it's done and the conversations it started.
For
and,
sure. No,
Yeah.
I'd be absolutely so keen to do that.
Yeah, no,
Sounds
I wish
great.
you all the luck, bro, and I'm
Thanks,
really,
bro.
really looking forward to.
Yeah.
I'll come along, but
Yes, you
might
will.
have to run.
Don't worry about
you
that.
might
You'll
running
be getting
six-
out there.
You'll be running
Look at that.
6-minute Ks those
We're getting the
days.
whole water boy out there.
Yeah, nah, I'm Swanson. He'll go alright. He's
Yeah.
pretty fit at the moment.
Yeah, Thomas has been
Yeah,
out
Thomas.
there.
Yeah, Thomas has done a couple of marathons,
Yeah.
So he's got some Ks banked up.
Yeah, we're getting the whole crew out there.
Yeah,
We're,
nah,
having,
it'll be
we're
cool.
having a day of it.
Yeah,
And
nah.
we'll definitely get some beers after them.
Yeah, oh yeah. Good George will be.
Oh, yeah.
Be good for us.
Beautiful.
Cool. All right. Best of luck, Matty.
Thanks, bud.
Look
Appreciate
forward
it.
to-
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Anyone out there? The links I'll chuck them all in through the Instagram, Facebook, and the website also. So make sure if you got a spare $20,
Yeah.
go and sponsor a K. If you got more than that, sponsor more.
Do something hard today.
Yes. Do something hard. Cheers, Matty. Thanks very much.
Thanks,
bro.
mate.